Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for another edition of the Free Exchange of Ideas with Donovan and John. We are here to help you out. Now, let's just get to it.
It's definitely a big issue in this country right now. I like to see, I mean, I am against, you know, doing away completely with law enforcement, obviously to that degree. But what I want to see is law enforcement be more outfitted and trained and having the right, how should I say, the right tools, the right people to do those things. So now Denver here in Colorado, where I live at now, actually has like I'm gonna use the word squad that goes out and deals with those things instead of sending like armed police officers. I think police officers are with them, but the police officers aren't the initial contact. Yeah, and there's interesting ways to do that. I mean, there's a video. I'll see if I can find it. Actually, I think it was in England. There was a guy, he might have been naked. He had an axe or a sword or something, was swinging it around. And the unarmed police force all showed up with these plastic shields. There must have been 20 of them. They all came around, surrounded him, and they just closed in on him and took him down, without lethal force, right? Yeah. So here's a guy with a weapon, and they all took him down. So it definitely can be done. It's just, I don't think our culture in this country is looking at that as an answer. But I think that's something we need to start looking at as well. So their culture is totally different in England.
Absolutely. But I don't think that's. I like that solution. That's a great solution. Again, nobody really got injured. He was taken down without incident, and a weapon was removed. Nobody was killed. That's a plus, right? I think you hinted at it, where we really do have a different sense of self than actually most of Europe. We are very individualistic, and I think that may be where some of our headbutt comes from. For me, I don't know. Maybe this just comes from where I come from, who I come from, the military training. Humans are, what do you call it?
Amazing.
We're not amazing.
Oh yes, we
are. We are dangerous, the most dangerous animal on the planet.
Oh, we are.
But dang it, I let myself go off on a tangent, you bastard. Yeah, the number for children.
We'll see if we can look it up. And I'll add that to it.
Yeah, because in 2021 it went up again, but not as much. But I think that's because some of us went back to school. A lot of the children that couldn't go back to public school because public schools weren't opening went to private schools. Parents just came up with the money and sent them to private schools. So they got that socialization. That's the thing I was going to say. Human beings are extremely social. It's very rare to find someone who doesn't fit into some group and able to, and that need to have the interaction, the interconnection. We are just very, very social animals. And without that socializing, we end up in our own head, and our own head has a bunch of crap you don't want to see. The basement in here is ugly dirt.
Yeah, I mean, also going off on a tangent here, I'm a big extrovert, which John will totally attest to. And these last 2 years, almost 2 years, have been hard on me as an extrovert too. Especially last year in particular. All of last year, until May, June of this year, it was pretty much not doing much and keeping to myself. I moved to a new state. I didn't really know a lot of people here. All the people I know here, friend-wise, I've only seen one. She let me stay at her place when I moved here. So Alicia was amazing to me. Everyone else I know and I haven't seen because pandemic and everything else and life and everything else, but pandemic mostly, right?
That was the other thing. Domestic violence went way up during
child abuse, like
elder abuse, spousal abuse. Yeah, absolutely. Those numbers went way the hell up.
And that's what was reported, right? That's just what was reported.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That was just what was reported. And so that's something that we have to take those numbers and set them aside for a year or two and re-look at them and say, what did we miss here that we could have avoided? Because there's no way to fix the number now. There's no way to fix what happened. However, this isn't going to be the only pandemic, right? And
hopefully in our lifetime.
well, yeah, they say
and
about
hopefully
every
that life
100,
goes a little longer.
right? Well, they say about every 100 years, give or take,
Yeah.
100, 120 years. So we probably won't see that again, but there may be other issues that do the same thing to us, and we can't allow that to occur again.
It's quite, honestly, for me, it's quite fascinating. My ex-girlfriend, she was my ex-girlfriend. Now she's my ex-girlfriend, but the DA I was dating, who's down in LA, and we were talking about it, and I was saying how I was working on the election and during the pandemic and all the stuff was going on and how historic it is to be a part of it. And she's like, you're really enjoying this, aren't you? I'm like, I kind of am, because it's kind of like I'm part of the election process and there's a pandemic going on that's affecting the whole world. And what I'm doing can change the country and the whole world. And, it's kind of like, yeah, because there are so many guns on the streets. It's okay. Tangent. So, which I did suggest to John that we name the show.
It's true, he did.
Because there are so many guns on the street, even if they are owned by a minority of the population, the resources dedicated to law enforcement activities are that much higher. Even a slight reduction in this cost could be directed towards something more useful, like free firearm education programs. All right, number 8. This amendment has seen inconsistent application in the law. Before the Heller ruling by the Supreme Court, the precedent for individual ownership as a right, the judicial system interpreted the Second Amendment as applying to militias only. That meant no one had the right to travel with their gun across state lines. The common law standard was that there was a duty to retreat if someone wanted to take your things. If you lived in the city, then a loaded firearm was banned from being in your home. Once upon a time, you even had to swear a loyalty oath as an American to have the right to own a firearm. Refusing to take that pledge meant that your right to gun ownership disappeared. It is an inaccurate statement to say that the U.S. has never had gun restrictions in place before. What we are doing is creating inconsistent case law based on current political desires. 9, there is no right to own a firearm if you cannot afford the cost. One of the unique aspects of the Second Amendment is that it doesn't mention the cost of ownership as part of your individual rights as an American. There is nothing that would stop Congress from passing a law which required a minimum price for this item, similar to the expense one must pay to obtain a passport or driver's license. The only thing that the Bill of Rights guarantees is that you can afford the cost of a gun and there's no other restrictions in place for you. And this is an opportunity that you can have. Go, John.
Congress can pass what?
Passing a law which required a minimum price for this item, similar to a passport or driver's license. I'm not sure if I agree with this one completely. I see what you're saying, but you're talking about driver's license and passports are through the government, created through the government, by the government. Guns are private industry.
Right. And see, that was my thought, was that they can't do that to automobiles, they can't do that to blenders or homes. Why should they be able to do it to guns?
Yeah, I see their point, but
that would be very Venezuelan.
Yeah, very, very communistic, right? So yeah, not that it can't be done, but it's just saying it can't be done in the United States is what I would say is the way it's looking at. 10.
Because they're already talking about like monster taxes, which I think are going to be, if they do something like that, because they're talking about a progressive tax. So like if you bought a box of bullets, let's say a box of 20 bullets, the tax on them, if it's a handgun, it'd be like 2 cents. If it's a rifle, it'd be 3 cents. But if you bought 10 boxes, it would be a dime each. So now you're talking serious money, right? Now you're talking serious money. And the Fifth Circuit just heard a case out of New Jersey where New Jersey was taxing, on top of sales tax, was taxing weapon sales and bullet sales, which is what California is also doing. And they were saying that tax was going to go specifically to gun safety programs, but there was no track from the tax being taken to the government and then going someplace. There was no track to show that it was going to any program or that any programs had been created to help with gun violence. So the Fifth Circuit said, well, you can't do that. If you say it's going to be for something, then you have to have that program prepared. And so, and that actually came out of one judge's mouth. I think she kind of gave them that, here's how you can go around our decision. You have to create that fucking program.
Yeah.
You can't
or that money set aside to that program's created, not used. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't just go into the general fund.
So
yeah.
I would agree with that.
So I have trouble with extra taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's already sales tax, and there is a in California there's a weapons tax, and now there's a tax on bullets. It's not progressive tax, but it's a tax nonetheless that is on top of sales tax, which is supposed to cover whatever is needed. If you need more, then you raise your sales tax, right? That's what California has done. I don't know how many times, but nonetheless, yeah, we just have that argument. But I think we're actually kind of on the same page on that one, just because of the way it was worded.
Yeah, I definitely, I see your point, but I don't know how it can be done. Okay, going on. I think this is the last. Let me double check here. Move cursor. This is it. So number 10. The Second Amendment does not exclude specific actions, behaviors, or choices. Second Amendment would be arguably more powerful if it created specific restrictions to ownership based on high-risk behaviors. Several demographics, including teens with a history of violence, can still purchase firearms despite their history of choices. Even people convicted of a gun crime can still buy more of them if they are not convicted of a felony and their misdemeanor sentence is less than 2 years in some states. I kind of like this and I also kind of don't. I definitely am, that's the word I want to use, would be wary of enforcing laws on people who aren't necessarily breaking a law. Yeah, we all have the potential to break the law, right? So
if you ask a police officer, well, actually, if you look at just traffic laws, you don't even have to go above traffic laws.
Yeah. Oh no.
If you walk out your door, get in your car, you will break at least 2 laws before you hit your first stop sign.
Yeah.
And there's no way to know that. I mean, there is. You could read the book, but memorizing the traffic laws in your state alone could drive you insane. Now think about trying to memorize the laws for a misdemeanor, felony level A, B, C, and D, E, and F in some states. And then you have to learn federal laws. You can't, if you learn all of that, you won't have anything in your brain, any room in your brain to learn anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I see the point, and I would love to see something done on this. I guess there's definitely,
there should be a way to streamline.
Yeah, and it's tough. You're talking about, okay, is this person really, are they really dangerous? They're saying these things. They have a gun. What do you do? They're not necessarily breaking the law, right?
So when we talked about the First Amendment, and fighting words, and what was the other one? Instigation.
Yeah.
Right. Instigation. If you're on Facebook and you have a gun, you say, I have a gun, I'm going to kill my wife because she's just knocking me down. I'm tired of it. That is an instigating threat. That is what's called a terroristic threat, because you have a weapon. Now you've said you have the weapon, and this is what you're going to do with that weapon.
Threatening to use it, right? Yeah.
You can be arrested, and currently, unfortunately, that is a misdemeanor in California, unless you can't own that weapon or can't carry that weapon outside of your house. But yeah, that's a terroristic threat, and it's a felony. No dicking around. Unfortunately, when you're talking about domestic violence, if you're a man and you can't hold your temper enough not to hit your wife or your children, you should be removed from the gene pool. I will say that with a straight face right to my camera every damn day. You do not belong on this planet if you cannot figure out a way to control your temper and not hurt someone. There's no reason for that, because you like to drink or you're a little stressed at work or whatever. There is no reason to ever hurt your spouse or your children. Period.
One final thought on the Second Amendment. Most people read the pros and cons of the Second Amendment in the form of an echo chamber. They will see the areas in which they agree and use that information to support their position while dismissing everything else. Although it is true that guns have long been part of the culture in the United States, we cannot be honest with ourselves by saying that we treat this tool differently than other elements of life. You cannot legally drive without a driver's license that you earn by proving you have the skills and knowledge to be successful. You must also renew that license periodically. Some states make a similar requirement for those who wish to have a concealed carry permit. Extending that process to all gun ownership with minimal fees to process the paperwork seems like a common sense compromise that could help to reduce the amount of violence that is present in the US society. The status quo is not working. It is time to do something. Thank you, author Natalie Rigoli. All right, John, what was it?
My only God, I hate that echo. It's broken me.
I heard it when you got really close to your computer. That's the
maybe
first
maybe both of them are running. At any rate, so when they start talking about minimal fees, I love that word because it always turns into maximum fees. I don't believe in a fee-based way. You can't regulate someone into good. It never happens. You just make laws that people don't know they're breaking. And we just talked about that. What I do believe in is saying, if you want to carry a weapon, there are specific training things that you have to go through. Now, there was somebody, there was a court case, and I'm afraid I don't recall where it was. I just recently read it within the last couple of weeks, where the state had decided you had to take all 660 hours of police training in order to get a carry permit. I don't want to be a cop. I just want to be able to carry my weapon. I am willing to go to a training. There are several training groups. As a matter of fact, I looked at a couple locally. They run about $500, which is not cheap. However, they teach you your weapon. They make you take it apart and put it back together as if you were in the military. They teach you how to draw your weapon from wherever you want to carry it. That way it becomes muscle memory, and you train like that every few months or every couple of months, I guess. You train that specific thing every couple of months. And they do other training on teaching you how to use your weapon, how to do a close quarters clear in a building, so like your home. They teach you all of these things, and it runs about $500 to $1,000, depends on the extent of the course. But it's only 16 or 18 hours, I think. Which, and to me, as a starter course, that's not a bad starter course. 16 to 18 hours is a good, stuffed it into your brain and put it in the right place. And these gentlemen that do these courses, that teach these courses, do not mess around. If you think you can show your gun empty and then point it at somebody and still play the game, you are absolutely wrong. And you will probably end up with a broken bone. But training, I can't hammer that home enough. I don't have a big enough hammer to make sure that you understand training. When you're talking about any kind of weapon. If you want to do Taekwondo, what are the first thing you do? Train. You train and you get better and you get a different colored belt, but you get better at that specific skill. The same with any weapon. If you're learning bow staff or handgun or rifle, it's all about training. And I believe in training, and I believe that that's a fair thing to ask of someone who wants to carry a weapon. I don't think it's a fair thing to ask you to do the entire 660 hours that a police officer has to do, because they're learning other things that they can do with that weapon that you don't need to know.
I actually agree with you.
So I don't mind training. I love training. I actually love to train. If I had more people that could go with me, I would train more often. But I just like that. And I again, teaching yourself muscle memory, so if you end up in a poor situation, your brain is not doing all the work anymore. You can focus on what's going on in front of you while your body can do the things it needs to do. Ask any football player, any sports person. Muscle memory is everything.
Yeah. I will agree with you on that. I mean, I am not one. I mean, I totally agree with, taxing weapons and stuff like that. It doesn't affect me, right? I'm like, who cares? Doesn't bother me, I'll go for it. I don't own home anymore. Increase homeowners taxes. But yeah, I agree with you on the training thing. It's kind of like, yeah, you're not really training to be a police officer. You're training to do your gun. So yeah, it's definitely something I'd agree with you on, that, there's something, it can't be, for lack of a better term, overkill on.
Yeah,
on
you can't overkill training.
But yeah, you're right. As much as I agree with you, the training, you're not trained to be a police officer, right? You're training to learn how to use your gun, how to handle your gun in situations, and that's that.
Right.
Right. You're not training to be a peace officer.
No, absolutely not.
The thing is, you're just a vigilante now.
Okay, when you come out here in January, I'm just going to hit you for that. I'm just saying. I currently hold a open carry license in California because of what I do for a living. I can get that permit, but in order to keep that permit, I have to go to a range twice a year. There has to be 6 months between them, and I have to do it for 2 years. And then in the second year, at the end of the second year, and I've done all my training, I send all that stuff into to the state of California, and they give me a new permit. It's every 2 years. I don't mind that either. I think that's not uncalled for. I don't want anybody. Yeah, I don't want anybody with a gun to just be able to carry it around and willy-nilly play games. I think that's stupid. Again, training saves you time, saves you money. It truly does. Trust me on this one. And 3, it may save your life. No matter what you're training to do, if you train to do it well, it will keep you from, or lessen your ability, lessen your possibility of being injured, because training teaches your body how to react. And that's my hammer and sickle right there.
All right, and I agree with you on that too. As a former athlete myself, it's definitely
water polo is not a sport.
I don't play water polo. I barely swim. I can barely swim across a pool. You're talking about. I'm more of a hot tub guy. I did a thing on suicide.
You want to do 4 parts on?
But it's mass shootings and suicides. So
okay.
I think
I
think a half hour. I think a half hour in each of those is good for the show. We'll look at
actually
down on that. Yeah,
actually try to do that.
Well, yeah, let's try to do that. And sometimes me and John, but this is a really big issue, right? So I don't mind spending time on it and talking about it. I know me and John differ a little bit on the Second Amendment, but as you can well see, we also agree on some things about it too. So it's one of my big things with the Second Amendment, and I've thrown this out on Facebook to a few of my friends who are very pro 2 a.m. And is that as someone who works in politics, who is not necessarily a fan of guns, guns are an issue in this country, and I'm sure John would agree with me on that. And something needs to be done. And I threw it out there towards my conservative, constitutional, Republican, evangelical friends. I was like, you guys need to fix this, because anything me and my friends come up with, you're probably not going to like. Yeah. Well, so I'm like, so I say, if it's an issue that's important to you, probably more important to you than it is to me. What do you think can be done or should be done? What should be done? What can be done? What can we do? Because I say keeping it as it is not working.
And I agree. Because there is a lot of. I mean, me personally, I don't like red flag laws unless you can narrow it quite a bit more. I don't believe in red flag laws. Let me just say that as a flat statement. However, domestic violence pisses
That's a red
me
flag,
off.
dude.
That is a red flag. That's absolutely. If we can narrow red flags to something like that, I wouldn't have a big issue with that. If me and my wife, God forbid, ever divorced and she was truly afraid of me, I would expect the cops to come to my door and say, your wife has filed this restraining order and she's afraid of your guns, so we're going to have to confiscate them, and you can come to the courthouse and make your arguments. That's fair. I know my wife wouldn't do that to me, and that's the drawback to red flag. That's one of the drawbacks to red flag. The other one is no knock warrant. That is asking to be shot, or worse yet,
or killed.
Or killed.
Definitely.
Yeah. Or worse yet, I have a small crossbow in my home, one of the little handheld pistol ones that is not really good for anything, but between my hallway door and my front door, it's really good. So I'm just saying, there are other weapons that other people have, and if somebody just comes banging on my door and then crushes through it, they're gonna catch something. And I mean, if you're wearing Kevlar, the soft stuff, crossbows work really good on that. Bullets, not so much, but bullets, because of the way they're made, are made to hit like a fist. So Kevlar takes a lot of that and stops the bullet. It won't stop an arrow.
Sharp point.
Yeah. I'm just saying, and that's my drawback for red flag. It's too broad, and two, it puts police in a really bad place physically. I wouldn't send my worst enemy in on something like that, knowing what could be on the other side of the door.
Yeah. I think red flag laws are useful. But I think,
like I said, if we narrowed them,
there's trouble with them too, right? And they're not perfect. There's definitely trouble with them. I like them, but yeah, I think they're and that's what I'm saying. And that's what I said. I put it out to my gun-loving conservative Republican friends. It's like, this issue, if it's going to be fixed, I really say it's going to be fixed by you guys. And if you guys say we're not going to fix it, well, then I say, well, me and my friends are.
Yeah. No. And you know what? I don't have an issue with that. As a matter of fact, I would appreciate coming together with I don't want to say anti-gun. The other side. The other side. The other side. I would love to come together with the other side and sit down and say, look, let's just take what's on the table now and wipe it off. Take all the gun laws and yank them, except the Second Amendment, obviously, and yank them and say, look, this is what we have. Can we do away with this one and this one because they don't do what we thought they were going to do in the first place? And this one, maybe narrow this one, work on training, not to buy a weapon, but if you own a weapon, you must train. You must train at least as much as I do just to keep my open carry permit, which is personally minimal. It's a minimal training. The training to get to that point was better than the training that I have to do every 6 months ish. But yeah, I think training, and I think certainly making that necessary to carry a weapon, either concealed or open. I don't have an issue with either. I like concealed carry, but only because it doesn't make you stand out. Open carry makes me stand out in any crowd. But training, that's training, right? And we could pay for that. So I think training should be part of the law to carry, period. If you want to carry a gun, rifle or pistol, you should train. You should have some type of training so you have better knowledge. And at those training facilities, they can have psychologists or psychiatrists, psychology. Okay, so yeah, they can have psychologists out there on the line training with you and listening to what you're saying and what you're not saying. These are important things because we can weed people out in training before they screw somebody else up or kill somebody else. I think it's a lot like, I don't want to say license because I don't like that. I don't like licensing. Like driver's license has too much information on it for a gun owner, because there's still way too many people that are so negative that they'll dox you, and I don't need that hassle. There's way too much stuff that goes wrong in that. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's other things that we can do to help weed those folks out, because there are people. The kid that went to was it Stoneman High School, killed his mother and took her guns to the school, right?
Yeah.
Stoneman, that's Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody knew the guy was messed up. His mom knew he was messed up and was helping him get through that by training. She thought training with a weapon would help him focus, and it did, unfortunately. And he took her first, but he had to get the guns. And there had been warnings about him prior to the incident, several warnings about him prior to the incident. But because he had done nothing else wrong, there was nothing the police could do. I think we have to look at that situation as well and say there has to be a way to mesh psychology with police, with helping someone, because he didn't have any other issues. He could, do his daily chores. He could do his stuff. He just had something going on in his head that didn't sit right. And finding that before it goes boom is the hardest part, I think.
Yeah.
But we have to make that effort somehow.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see anybody else get shot just because they're not square up in the head.
Who shouldn't have a gun, right?
Exactly. And that's that's the tough thing, right? Who should not have a gun?
Yeah.
I mean, the only
that can be slippery slope. As someone who doesn't like guns, I totally will see that too. And
right. Well, see, and it's like I said, the only two things currently that keep you from having a weapon is mental and a felony or over 2-year misdemeanor, at least in California. But those three things alone don't weed out the nutcases or the people that are just gonna kill to kill.
And especially if you're young, you don't have a record, right?
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
And this guy didn't have any record. I mean, other than psychology records, but you can't look at those. They're medical records, and that's part of the problem. A psychologist has to have the freedom to say, psychologist or psychiatrist has to have the freedom to say, my patient is no longer under control. I can't give him enough medication. I can't help him navigate it. He needs help I can't give him, and he needs to be in-house. What do they call that? Is that inpatient? He has to be an inpatient. We don't have that in California anymore since Ronald Reagan took the
got rid of it all.
Yeah. And it's like, that was where I think that's where we really started going wrong, was right around 80, 81, 82, somewhere in there. Because we didn't have this, especially the school shooting issue, we didn't have this at this level prior to that. And I don't say it ramped up steeply in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, and it's just continuing to go up because we have nobody to help them.
Yeah, I agree, and see, I like this feedback from you. My friends on Facebook were very much more, how shall I say, aggressive towards me on it, and
I've actually spent time to look at this.
Yeah, but I still say, and not that I'm not willing to be a part of it, but I still say, I think it's you guys who need to fix this, and not me. So,
I agree, because the reason I agree is because I've seen
only Nixon could go to China, right? So,
well,
so
what I've seen from the left is hyper negativity toward the weapon itself, and it's not the weapon, because I can set an AR-15 in my yard, and if I chain it down so nobody can take it, it can do no damage to anyone, all on its own. If I set it up in the corner of my house and nobody comes in and takes it, it's never going to hurt anyone. It's not the weapon. It's what's going on up here and in here. I mean, we talked about this on several occasions. If you're hurting, there aren't people that will listen to you. You have some of them you have to pay, but I can't say this enough. Don't quit. Go see somebody. You can find a way through this morass in your brain. If you can't, we can find help for you. I don't want to take anything away from anyone as long as they're willing to do the work. And that's, I mean, that's, you know, the bottom line for, I think, anything you do. If you're not willing to do the work, to put in the effort to do a good job, then you should be looking someplace else. But if you have an issue and you know you have if you hear voices, not sounds, actual voices that are actually speaking to you, you should probably talk to somebody about that. I'm thinking a psychiatrist because they can prescribe drugs. Good ones, I heard too. But if you're just having a bad day, go take it out on a heavy bag, not your wife or your kids.
Or school.
Or school.
Or a former place of work.
Yeah, or your former place of work, or your place of work. The guy that did it at VA. I mean, he was still working for him when he went over there and shot all them people up.
Yeah, BTA, that was this year.
That was this year. No, 20. Yeah. No, 20.
This year. Yeah. Was it this year?
I thought it was 20.
I did pull that one up.
Oh, did you? Yeah, because that was weird, because he also had some people that had spoken out against him, saying, hey, I'm not sure this guy's all squared up in the head. Maybe we should look at that. And BTA has one of the best.
That was May 2021.
Yeah.
Then we had the one in Boulder, here in Boulder, and we very close to home for me and you, the Garlic Festival 2019. So yeah, they are. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're having an issue, for God's sake, don't quit. Go seek help, because it's there. It's not.
I mean, mental health definitely needs to be forefront in this country, I think, and not just for people. Like, it needs to be for everyone. I mean, everyone has issues, and
I agree. And for the military, it's hard because, one, that's not something you're taught. If you have a mental issue, buck up, grow a set of nuts, whatever.
There's definitely a stigma towards mental health in this country. I think it's changing a little bit more now.
I do too.
But it's still a stigma, right? And it's definitely something we need to, and I think it's something Democrats and Republicans are kind of starting to take on now. So I hope it's getting better. It's definitely better than it was 5 or 10 years ago. So
yeah,
but again, it still needs to be considered part of your healthcare and stuff like that. I think that's the thing. It needs to be access to everyone.
I remember when I worked for the local newspaper here, not like doing anything serious. I just worked in the press room. In our employee package was what they called a mental health day. You could just take the day off for your mental health, and they gave you 2 a year. So once every 6 months ish, you could just take a day off and veg or whatever. And everybody in the place had that, not just in
go shoot your gun,
go shoot my gun, beat on my heavy bag. I mean, honestly, when I was younger, actually not that much younger, I have a heavy bag, and that's how I used to take that aggression away from my family or my friends, and I would go beat on that bag, and that saved me a lot of times, because I couldn't do it I knew I couldn't do it to the person that I wanted to, and everybody else was out. So yeah, you go get yourself an 80-pound heavy bag and just work that out. You will work yourself into a froth, but you will be so tired when you're done, you don't even care anymore about whatever made you angry to get in there. And that's what I did. I think I was told by a psychologist that wasn't the right way to go about it, but it worked for me. So
bike riding for me helps clear my head. I think
right, bike riding. Yeah, whatever, because you can.
Yeah,
because you can turn this off.
Yeah.
When you do something like that, when you make your body work. Oh, we're playing Senators today. Okay. You can make your body work and turn your brain off. It's the freedom it gives you is amazing. Like I said, for me, it saved my life multiple times. It kept me from doing something that would be detrimental to my health, detrimental to my lifestyle, and a lot of times detrimental to my workplace. Like I said, I have a short fuse, and I recognize, and I'm so much better now than I was even 10 years ago. 20 years ago, I was a completely different person. Actually, almost 30 years ago, because that's about when I started to make the turn, when I about 30. And my wife helped a lot with that too. So don't hesitate to reach out to the people that love you, because they're the ones that will help you.
Yeah.
You know, if you're afraid, you're a young woman, you're afraid to say something to your parents just because you're a young woman, go to your school counselor. Or if you're in college, go to your
RA.
one more time.
RAs.
RAs or
they got counselors and stuff there too. So
yeah, they got counselors. Just reach out. There will be people there for you. I promise you that it will save your life. And I know this is a weird tangent because we're talking about the Second Amendment and guns, but suicide by gun, the thing about that is, one, suicide's permanent. And while you are no longer in pain, everybody around you is left going, what the hell? And crying and trying to figure out what they did wrong or whatever. Don't you fucking cry on me.
Not gonna cry.
Just don't.
I'm liking this tangent though, and we've done this several times before on
we
this
have
very same topic.
We're both very this subject is very close to both of us.
Yeah, proactive on it.
Yeah, so just don't quit. Just always move forward. That's you can fall, you can crawl, you can walk, swim if you have to, but it's always forward.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it's okay, John. I love you, brother. This has been good. I like this one a lot. And like I said, this is a really huge issue, not just for me and you, but for the country as a whole, about the shooting at the Garlic Festival where my nephew was at and our good friend Matthew was at. And quite honestly, and all that, I was there the previous 2 days, and I was scheduled to work that Sunday, and I was volunteering on a political campaign. And I thought I should just call in sick to work. They could book someone else, and I should just go to the Garlic Festival for fun for one day. And then I just decided to do the adult thing and stick with my job and go do the work I was going to do. But and I even talked to my mother that morning that I'm thinking about just calling in sick and just going to the Garlic Festival for fun that Sunday. And I probably would have been there because I'm always one of the last ones to leave the freaking Garlic Festival. So I would have been right where it was all at. It's sad. So it's very, how things worked out. That could have been very different,
Absolutely. And honestly,
between me and John, we probably knew 100 people there that day.
So, easily. And honestly, praise to the police officers. They did a fantastic job. They were on it right away. Actually, it's funny because I read a little bit about that afterward. They talked to one of the officers who is ex-military, and he said that's a gunshot. And his partner said, "No, I think it's fireworks." He goes, "Nope, it's gunshot." No, and was already moving toward the fire.
They took it down pretty quickly, is my understanding from what I read.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. They took him out. Honestly, he could have easily killed 30 or 40 people without much effort. Had the police been 2 minutes later, he would have been just spraying and praying. But yeah, the Gillard Police Department just really worked as a great unit.
And that's a multi-agency effort there too, because that damn thing's so big. You talk about 100,000 people.
I think they have highway patrol out on the edges, and they have sheriff and police inside.
From other departments.
And actually, I think they had a smaller contingent than they normally have, right? For the last day.
The last day, it's usually small.
Weapons, you have to. I don't care what you're carrying or what you want to carry. You should train with whatever it is, all the time. I train with 3 knives, and my handgun and my rifle, and I work the heavy bag. And I do push-ups. That's pretty much the extent of my training.
Keep doing them. Keep doing
Absolutely.
months over.
690 today.
All
So
right.
I've completed my challenge, but it's only the 24th. I have 6 more days in this month, and then 11 more months until we start doing it again. And I am going to just
You'll be in better shape next year.
round is a shape, dude.
Well, I'll hold you on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give up that steak. Keep the guns.
I will never get, dude, I'm Irish. It's meat and potatoes. That's all day long. Anyway, we really do appreciate you hanging out this long or coming back in pieces. We don't mind either way. If you would please give us a like, leave a comment. That'll help push us up in the algorithms. I think we have 8 of you now, 8 or 9. And this will get us out to other people. But yeah, that just smash that like button, leave a little comment, even if it's all like, you guys suck. We'll take it. Subscribe. That'll help us too. Just grow the channel. I would really like to have us up to about 1,000 before we get to the end of next year. Actually, before December next year. I would love to see that. I don't know if we're going to do it, but that's my focus. I think that's all I got. You got anything, Donovan?
Nope. Thank you guys for coming, man. And like I said, this is a topic that's forefront in this country and important to me and John in different ways. Sorry it took so long tonight, but I think we had some really good tangents that went off there, including this last one. So, but yeah, I'm done, man. So love, peace, and soul, people. Be safe out there. We love you.
Thank you very much for watching. See ya.
Well, I'm Donovan, and John's here with us today. Thank you for joining us for the free exchange of ideas, and we'll see you next time on the next show. See ya.